Hi there and welcome back, and this week I got fucked. Here, I'll go to the trades that I took this week, and I took 4 trades. Here, I'll go to the first one, where I'll just show that on Monday we were close to all-time highs. As you can see, here we were, when we opened, which was around here, we were 300 points away from all-time highs, which just means that we are on all-time highs. So usually on all-time highs, the market tends to be always bullish. But my draw on liquidity on this day was this low because we were engineering these lows and we had manipulation to go take them. So this right here, because of this trendline liquidity, was my draw on liquidity, and I wanted to be really careful. So when we open here on the 30-second, we swept these highs, and with a lot of momentum we had this manipulation and inversion. So I thought that after it, the thing that should happen is distribution, which usually happens. But this was my target, this was my stop loss, and I got stopped at break even because I placed it at the 930 low, which is a really great liquidity pool, which is why I wanted to take this trade. A really good manipulation with a really good draw on liquidity with a good break even. It ended up stopping me at break even, but I saw that some traders did take this trade like this, which would be for a 1R. I wouldn't target this low. I understand that we could take the short just 1R because we are at all-time highs. That makes a lot of sense, and I didn't understand that at the time, but I can seem to understand this stop loss. This isn't the model that we trade. This is really discretionary, where we would place our stop loss on this high because when we have 930 manipulation setups, we don't tend to rebalance to equilibrium. We usually just go one way, and when we change the way, we will go one way up a lot of time, and that's exactly what happened here. This was a trade that I did take, and the market just showed that it didn't have a really good price action because it's just chopped around and snaked around till the end of the day. Now skipping Tuesday because I didn't take any trade on Tuesday. Here on Wednesday I had conflicting draws because here we have engineer liquidity above, and this would be one of my targets, and this was the second one because we had this trendline liquidity below here. So if we zoom on a 5-minute, we can see it even better. We were funneling. So usually what happens on these days is that we need to wait for one side to get taken for us to take the other side, and that's exactly what I did. But before we go there, we see that something that I have been talking about a lot of times here is that here we have this trendline liquidity. And as I said, and I will talk about this a lot of times, is that when we go below the trendline liquidity, all the setups, I understand that on these market conditions, all the setups tend to be A+. And if we zoom on a 30-second, we see that we had a really great inversion around here. But something that I see that it doesn't really matter anymore is that when the setup is decent, the size of the fair value gap tends to not matter on iFVGs anymore. And that's the thing that I am seeing now. Back in the day, the size of the FVG really mattered a lot, but right now it doesn't really matter. If the setup makes sense, the iFVG tends to be just one trigger instead of being the confluence, which I just think that the market is changing. But that's normal, the things tend to change over time. I ended up not taking this trade, which would be the wisest decision. What I did take is what I said that I wanted to take in a initials of the day, which would be for us to take one side and then target the other one. As you can see here, we swept this, we turtle souped this low, and we inversed both of these 30 seconds with a lot of momentum. So when I understood that the second 30-second, which is right here, was getting inversed, I entered on the trade, placed my stop loss below the fair value gap, and targeted the highs that I wanted. But I went break even, and I got stopped break even on this trade because we tapped this BPR. I didn't went break even as I usually do on the first swing high. I held a lot more because I thought that this trade was really good, and I went break even when we tapped this BPR because I didn't want to see a market respect this balanced price range. If we respect it, we would probably go much lower than my stop loss. So I went break even when we tapped this balanced price range, because if we were really bullish, we would inverse it to the upside, which we didn't, and it saved me from a loss. Now, right after it, we had this 3 minute, which still makes sense. I didn't take this trade because, once again, the fair value gap in this range doesn't really make sense. It is too tiny for the range that we are in, but this fair value gap made sense because we swept external, we swept internal, and we inversed with a lot of momentum. Now, I would also get stopped at this trade at break even if I didn't look at ES. Here we made an SMT at this size with ES, which would be where I would take my profit. And this trade will be a win. Still, I don't know if this trade was really, really good. I am very 50-50 on it being good or a bad trade, because in my opinion, the first 30 seconds that I took should have worked, and it didn't. Because after it, we had a lot of chop. The market just chopped around, and in my opinion, the day was over there, and this 3 minutes doesn't really make sense in my head. But it worked, and it can be one of those cases where I'm wrong, which has been happening. And now we come into Friday. We skipped Thursday because we had just a 1,000 points expansion and we didn't have a single setup. Right here, in my opinion, on the really higher time frame, this looks like a market maker bearish model. But it is on a really higher time frame, so what we do on the 1 minute doesn't really matter on a 4 hour. But I was somewhat bearish, and we were still taking these lows and holding on this area low on the market. So I thought that because we are still holding this second fair value gap right here, I thought that we would be bearish. But I was probably too zoomed in, because for us to be bearish there, we would need to sweep this high on the 4 hour, create an intermediate term high like we are doing right now, and then sweep the lows that I did want. This was my draw one liquidity. But this is hindsight, and when I was taking my trades, we were around here. So what I saw is that we held that hourly, we inversed this 50-minute to the downside, and we held this 15-minute for value gap. If we go on the 5-minute, we see that after all this confluence that I just talked about, we are also holding the 5-minute, and we swept this high. This is somewhat of a protected high. So, in my opinion, we should take these lows. So, when I zoomed into the 30-second, I thought that the market would go down here, and I thought that it wouldn't wait for me, but we did rebalance. We did respect this 30-second, and with a really decent momentum, we inversed this one to the downside. So when we inversed this 30-second, and also at the same time inversed the 1 minute, I took this trade with a lot of confidence. And as you can see, I got stopped out really, really quickly, which it's perfectly okay. And right after it, in the 30-second, and that was the first loss that I did take this week, on the 30-second, in my opinion, this was a protected high. So we shouldn't take it. If we take it, we are probably bullish, and my bias is wrong. But we didn't take it. We swept internal, and with a ton of momentum, we swept internal. We respected, once again, the 15-minute. We didn't take the rejection block, and with a lot of momentum, we inversed this 30-second fair value gap to the downside to my draw one liquidity. So in my opinion, I thought, okay, this trade that I just lost on is just getting remanipulated, and I will try the second one. Once again, like in the first one, I took a loss. So this got me really, really fucked, because I took 2 losses on this month. I was green on the month, not a lot, but knowing that in the past 3 months I have been red, being green on this one is really, really good. But the month is gonna end on the next week, and I took these 2 losses, which made me really red on the month, and it's really, really fucked up. I don't really know what to do. I know that we still have a lot of work to do, and that's the only thing that I know I can work on. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more, please subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.